with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. We maintain rational optimism about the future.
This is the Maverick Mindset Radio Show brought to you by me, Adam Williams. This is going to be the best show we've ever had.
I think so.
Which it's now being recorded on Zoom.
Okay.
I am remote. We have a remote guest, and it's the Father's Day show. This show may change the rotation of the earth. It's going to be so big. I'm so excited. This is going to be awesome.
Also, who better to hold down the fort with a remote than a father?
Oh, yes.
Dad joke number one.
Yes. Oh, man. That joke was so hot, I need to go turn down the thermostat. All right.
Another fatherly duty.
I'm going to leave this show.
All right. So today, Maverick Mindset Radio, Mav Daddies, we have a guest in the house who we're going to introduce momentarily. I'm really excited about this show. Entrepreneurial Fathers, Maverick Mindset Radio, Mav Daddies. This is going to be great.
Yes. Of course, before we get into that, all that fun stuff, let's let everyone know where they can find us.
So we are, as always, streaming live on Facebook. If you want to find me today in person, I'm at Legoland in New York. Come and track me down. Our episodes are up on Spotify, Maverick Mindset Radio. We've got the Maverick Mindset Radio YouTube channel, and then, of course, MaverickMindsetRadio.com, where we've got the Maverick merch. I brought my notebook with me today. Hard to see because I got the virtual Zoom background. But I got the notebook with me today. Maverick 10 for 10% off. There's yours. See, this is how we run this show. We got our stickers, we got our notebooks, we got our coffee mugs. And today, it's going to be the best show ever. I'm so excited. All right. So let's start with like a brief introduction of Jordan. I'll do the introduction and then we can get into the quote of the day, and then we'll get into the hard-hitting interview questions. How's that sound?
You got it.
All right. So today's guest, Jordan Ostroff. I don't want to give like the history or the background or all of the titles, but I invited him to be on this show because I know 3 things about him, maybe 4. He's always got a Hawaiian shirt on, which is kind of wasted on the radio, but we are streaming live on Facebook. He's a great dad. He's a great entrepreneur, and he appreciates dad jokes. And I thought, if we are going to do a Mav Daddies episode, this is the man to have on with us. So here we are. So we're starting out with the quote of the day.
Yeah.
Which I have lost my run of show already because.
Well, it's me. It's my turn.
Yeah, there you go. All right, go for it. Hit it.
So yeah, we're going to do the quote. I asked Jordan if he would do the quote today and read them for us, and then just kind of let us know why you picked that quote. Tell us a little bit about it. So you're up, Jordan.
Sure. And in true not following instructions, I have 2 quotes of the day. Yes. So we have the real one and we have the funny one because it's the Dad's Day. So my favorite quote of all time comes from James Clear. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. I don't know that there is another quote that in whatever it is, 12 words more encompasses how you have control over so many more things in your life than you possibly can imagine. So that is the quote that opens my book. And that is a quote that I think about as often as I can because it is so true. And for anybody who hates systems, James makes obvious that everything is a system. The current results you get are based upon a system, whether you created the system or not. So I love that quote.
Nice. I like that. All right. You got a second one for us?
The funny one from Dennis Miller in honor of Father's Day. Just be good and kind to your children. Not only are they the future of the world, they're the ones who can sign you into a home.
Yeah.
So important perspective.
That one resonates with me because, like me, my father was a bit, entrepreneurial, maverick mindset. And my parents have never owned a firearm, but I bought my first one. My first jury trial I ever had, I represented this guy who was accused of stealing a whole bunch of stuff from a whole bunch of houses, including a gun or several guns. But during the trial, they put a picture of one of them like up on the projection screen to show the jury like what the gun looked like and where it was found. And I remember sitting there and it was this like 9mm. I'm like, that's kind of cool. So I went out and bought that like right after that trial. because I'm like, I'm doing this type of work. Probably good to have some protection. So I remember the conversation with my dad where somebody got sick and he goes, if I'm ever like that, just take me out in the yard and shoot me because I do not want to be put into the nursing home. So I think that that was the approach that he was preferring on that. So love it. All right, Jordan, thank you for the quotes. So here's the way that we do this, Jordan. We ask the same 5 questions to every guest that we have on the show, but we don't provide the questions in advance because it's a test to see if you actually listen. Now, a little unfair for you because we've only had 2 guests on, but we'll know in the future whether people are actually listeners. So we've got our 5 questions that we ask everybody. And then after we get through that, people understand a little bit more about you and we can jump into, I think, some more stories and lessons and things like that. So, Ashley,
Yes.
who asked the first question? I do.
Yeah.
All right. Jordan, you ready for question number 1?
I was born ready for questions.
It's a softball. We try and get we build a little
Ease you into it. Yeah.
little bit of momentum. Yeah. All right. So name and business, or in your case, businesses.
Name my businesses.
Yeah. What's your name? What are your businesses?
Gotcha. So Jordan Ostroff, I'm the managing partner of Driven Law, a personal injury firm in Orlando, Florida. And then I also own Carpe Diem Consulting, where I do coaching and consulting for law firm owners to help get them out of the day-to-day and into more of a CEO type role and ultimately have a life.
And you are a lawyer. You've got a law firm that you run.
I am. I even had jury duty on Monday.
Did you actually get you didn't serve, did you?
I went up there and the prosecutor is somebody that I trained for multiple years in law school. And I was like, I probably can't be fair and impartial considering I taught that dude how to present a case, but I still got to sit through jury selection.
Awesome. Love it. All right. So, and you also wrote a book. You are today, huge show. We've got 2 #1 Amazon best-selling authors on the show. So tell it, what's the title of your book?
Love Your Law Firm, a roadmap to the law firm you always wanted, because I am on a mission to help more lawyers avoid depression, anxiety, and everything that comes with it, and instead actually enjoy running their law firm so that they can do great work for their clients, because people often come to us in their biggest time of need. And unfortunately, so many of us suffer because we never put ourselves first.
There you go. All right. Sorry, Ashley. I already went off script, but
That's okay. That happens. I feel like the theme of our show. All right. 60 seconds for your backstory.
Ooh, so I knew I always wanted to be a lawyer, even though I had no idea what that means. And some days I still don't know what that means. I was able to do trial team at undergrad at UCF and then again at law school at Barry and realized, oh, you just argue with people and try to convince them you're right. And then somebody told me the thing holding me back was that I was a giant asshole. And for 45 minutes, I thought this is the pot calling the kettle black. And then after that, I realized they were right. And so I've taken that to heart. And a lot of what I do ultimately culminating in, wearing Hawaiian shirts to try and be more approachable instead of being the standoffish, douchey lawyer.
Yeah.
And so here I am on a mission to help our clients and help more lawyers help their clients and be good spouses and parents and lawyers and people and humans and anything else.
So you
Sorry.
said that you always, it happens. You said you always wanted to be a lawyer. Why was that something you always wanted to be?
No idea. I can't even, I think at some point I decided like doctors might see a dead body and lawyers probably wouldn't in that moment. But I can't give you a really more specific reason.
So then when you got into it, it wasn't what you expected and you wanted to be someone that can change with that, a lawyer, right? How they're seen, what they encompass, what that typical lawyer is.
Well, I actually thought I was going to be a lifetime prosecutor. So that was my first job for just over 3 years, and then realized like I did not want the next promotion. A lot of really good lawyers in the area, but there wasn't the same opportunity for like a good law firm, especially in criminal defense. Like there are very few criminal defense firms in at least Florida that have multiple lawyers for whatever reason. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to open up my own firm. And then from there realize, oh, I like technology. And then I like not shaking my client down for money, which led me to PI, which really evolved into hating my law firm into enjoying my law firm. So the book is to try and help more lawyers avoid a lot of the same pitfalls and ultimately get to where I am now faster and with less headache and debt.
So you've got, where do you think you, as far as your business, you're spending most of your time focusing right now?
On me.
All right. So
To the
tell
extent,
us a little bit. So the next question,
People.
question number 3 is
Yeah.
what's going on in your business right now?
So right now I am continuing to network with people and grow my staff from the law firm perspective, and then working with my handful of clients on coaching, looking for a couple more clients, maybe 3 or 4, so that I can continue to really do like that customized bespoke service from that standpoint. I work 3 days a week, so it's summer, my kids in camp. We'll be in North Carolina all next month, so I'm hoping to work 6 days, just the days that I already have coaching clients. And that's what's going on, because ultimately, like, I realized I was the bottleneck for as many things as possible. So the more I can focus on me, the more I can help grow everybody else, the better I show up, the better they perform, etc.
And how many people do you have on your team right now?
That's a good question. So we've got somebody out on medical leave without including her. She'll be back in August. We'd be 10, 11, depends
Nice.
upon the somewhere in there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Ashley.
Imagine that you could have a panel of 3 people, living or dead, to help you with your most important decisions. Who are the 3 people and why?
Ooh, 3 people, most important decisions. All right, so I'm gonna go like super meta on this answer. Walter Isaacson, because I think he has really dived deep into Elon Musk and Steve Jobs and Leonardo da Vinci and a bunch of other people. Robert Greene, similar rationale between mastery, art of seduction, war, all that stuff. And then then I'm torn between Dale Carnegie or Napoleon Hill. Probably Dale Carnegie, just because I feel like a better person every time I reread How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I would like to have that like in my life consistently.
I think that's a good one. Who is the second one?
Robert Greene,
I don't know who that is.
48 Laws of Power,
Got it.
50th, yeah.
So I mean, you've got all 3 of those guys are authors.
And are authors who have delved deep into some of the most famous people in history. And so I think that way you get like the really, instead of saying Elon Musk, like, fuck it, sorry, I'm so sorry. Isaacson like wrote the book and did the one with Steve Jobs while he was still alive, and did Leonardo da Vinci, and I think he's got one on George Washington also. So like you get you get like the opportunity for their experience of a vast section of people.
So you're multiplying your impact there. I like it. Okay, next question. Have you ever hated anyone?
Yes,
Tell us about it.
definitely.
You did not hesitate on that.
No hesitation. I mean, so like you gotta let's stay on the topic of books, right? We're authors, we talked about authors. Like Patrick Bet-David, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. I don't know that I hate anybody currently, because I think I chose enemies not wisely from a hate standpoint for a very long time, whether that was like growing up overweight and being picked on, whether that was seeing other people's success and hating them out of jealousy, whatever. And so now I think, to the extent that I hate anybody, it's probably like I hate people who hate people for like who are racist, sexist, anti-LGBTQ, that standpoint. I don't know that I actually hate any specific person anymore, other than like that concept. The book really though helped me realize like the positivity of being motivated by competition instead of just the burning yourself out from it.
Nice.
Love it. All right, go ahead, Ashley.
All right. If you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
Nothing, because I am very happy with where I am right now. And butterfly effect, you don't want to step on the wrong butterfly.
Yeah.
That's the quickest answer we've ever gotten to that one. All right, What keeps you up at night?
My 6-year-old child wanting to play football, hockey, frisbee, Legos, read books, hungry, will not eat dinner at 6 o'clock, but at 9 o'clock is starving. So
We had that last night. We went out to dinner, and Penny turns 7 tomorrow, and she's like, "I'm full. I don't want any more." And we're like, "We'll take the to-go box, and you might as well give us a fork." And sure enough, 9 o'clock at night, like we're done, we're spent, and she's ready to rock and roll.
yeah, I mean, food tastes better when it's stopping you from going to sleep as a child. It is a proven fact.
All right, last question. Last
All right.
officially prepared scripted question.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you want to be doing in 5 years?
What do I want to be doing? I want to be doing almost exactly what I'm doing now. So I'm sure there are small tweaks, and ultimately, like the more that I can grow the team that is around me, not just in number, but in their skills, the less BS I have to deal with. So 5 years from now, if I had the exact same team and we've all grown over those 5 years, I would naturally be that much happier in a better place.
Love it.
So you're happy, like you like at this point in stage and like where you're at, what you're doing. I mean, it's kind of rare for people to be like, yeah, I'm really good in this spot and I want to be in the same 5 years from now.
Yeah, well, so I don't want to be the same, but I am doing the things that I genuinely enjoy, that I see the growth from over time. So like if I was still the same person in 5 years, that would be miserable and a waste of 5 years. However, I am, exercising, I am lifting weights, I am reading and learning, I am working with other people to help them grow, both internal staff and external clients. So like it is just the whatever dimension of time added to what I'm currently doing. It's not, I don't understand people that are like, oh, I wish I lived in another city. Great, then go do it. Like, why hold back on all these things?
So you think your view, your mindset of things is instead of saying it or just wishing it, why don't you just go do it?
Or try it, yeah, fail. Like, Adlerian psychology. I just read Courage to be Disliked a couple of weeks ago, and it made me realize like how I feel. And it's basically like not having that victim mindset. We can sit here and say like, oh, I can't do this because of X, I can't do this because of Y. But ultimately, like we have created our own boundaries to present the opportunity for failure on so many of these things. And so like, anytime somebody's like, what city do you wish you lived in? I'm like, Orlando. I get all the theme parks here and I've got an airport 20 minutes away to go anywhere else. Like if I set a different city, go move there. And if you hate it, move back. Like there's not all changes is good, but it's amazing to me how many people will create something that gets them stuck in a spot that they're unhappy, especially lawyers. So like try it out, write a book. And if nobody, Adam and I both got Amazon best-selling status. If nobody bought our book, then that would be a good reason to say like, I shouldn't be writing books, instead of like, oh, I don't have time, or people know more than me, or whatever. Like we did it, we tried it, and hopefully we found the success we were looking for from it, or will continue to. But like, that's the better route than I need to wait for something else to do what I truly want to do. And then, like my clients get hit by buses. Like what a way to live,
We talked about failure last week. What do you think stops people from doing those things? Like what do you think is making them stuck? Or do you think it's that fear of failure, or what do you think is stopping them from?
Yeah, I think it's fear in some manner. And like all of us are going to take that fear and put it through our own filter of how we've been raised. So for some people, it's like the fear of what will my family say, the fear of what will my friends say, the fear of everybody will think I'm a failure if this doesn't go right, the fear of the unknown, the fear, we have a million different things, but I think ultimately we're afraid of the change. And even if that's like immense agoraphobia, even if that's the standpoint of like you break out in hives anytime you go outside, you have created that symptom to prevent you from the fear of being rejected by somebody, of I don't know, whatever it is. Like it's a weird concept. A lot of people find it easier to give up control over their own life, which I don't understand. Because for me, like I'll never be 6'5", fine, but like short of that, I can get better at almost anything. And the more that you really take that growth mindset and internalize it, the more you don't see failure, you see opportunity. even if it's opportunity to learn by something going so awful for you, at least you tried, at least you did it, at least you have that experience instead of the woulda, coulda, shoulda.
What was it that, so I probably think you didn't always have this mindset, right? So what was it that made you say, I need to start thinking this way. I need to start behaving this way. I need to start living my life. What was there, like something big that happened? Or was it just one day you were like, you know what, this isn't working for me? What?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Like, I know my rock bottom was the day my wife told me she was pregnant with our kid, and like that was not the rock bottom part. Like the realization of how am I actually going to be the parent I want to be when we're $200,000 in debt, when we're working 80 hours a week, when we're completely, utterly miserable. Like I knew that was not what was going to be okay. And so potentially I made a small tweak. I saw a better result. I made another tweak. And like by the time I got to the other side of it, that's what convinced it for me. I don't know. I know it was like, I can't keep doing things the way that we've currently been doing them because I'm not going to be there for my son physically, emotionally, spiritually, you know, in any way.
Did you have other people in your family who are entrepreneurs?
So my grandfather owned an electric store in New York that burned down in an electric fire, but that was like before I was very young.
Yeah.
So
I know that, with our businesses and the people that we deal with, so many entrepreneurs had parents who were self-employed, right? So it's rare actually for someone to go and start a business without having some sort of background like that in the family. I don't know, is it genetic or is it how you're raised?
yeah, I mean,
Probably
my
both.
dad delivered mail, and then my mom was a substitute teacher, was a meter maid before that. So not no businessness immediately from there. And then also like no lawyers in the past run either. So that's why I go back to Ashley's question. Like I don't know where lawyer became the thing, but like it just did.
It's stuck.
Yeah. There's home videos of me at 5 arguing with my mom and telling her I want to be a lawyer. You know, like maybe I was just an argumentative kid and enough people told me like go be a lawyer. I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Which we now know in hindsight is a horrible reason to go and be a lawyer, but I still hear that all the time from people that are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I almost went to law school because I love to argue," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's not what that profession is all about." All
But I
right,
think
so
it's interesting. Okay.
we are live Maverick Mindset Radio with Jordan Ostroff, visionary entrepreneur, author of Love Your law firm coach and consultant, and personal injury attorney at Driven Law in Florida. It is the Mav Daddies show leading into Father's Day. And I actually wanted to get a little bit of a story from you, Jordan, because there's something that I remember you doing that I don't remember all the details, but I think it really goes into the type of life that you're trying to build, the type of dad that you're trying to be, the type of husband, type of business owner. So there was some period of time that, to my recollection, was an extended period of time where you were like homeless, but not really. You were traveling. So give us the details on that. Tell us the story. Like, what are the statistics? What were you doing? When was that? Because it seems like a pandemic time
Yeah.
period.
No, it was a pandemic thing. So for 400 days, we drove across country. And actually, like the reason it's funny you refer to it as me being homeless. So we had planned to start in January. My business partner at the time at my former company, Legalese Marketing, their roof caved in. They were renting. They told the landlord like there's a tree scratching the roof. He said nothing, did nothing about it. Then they found like black mold in the attic, and they were gonna have a kid. Like their kid was gonna be born like 4 weeks after that happened. And so we were like, honestly, like if you want, rent our place for a year or so. We'll leave like 3 months early. So I think we left in November of 2021 and then or October and then November of 2022 came back. So 13 months. And we got in our Jeep and we just drove west over the winter and then went up the Pacific coast and then came back across the north over summer. And it was just an incredible, awesome experience that like I wish we had gone earlier. I wish we had stayed for longer. But ultimately, like my kid went back into the second semester of EPK and then he started kindergarten. So we wanted to give him like enough time to acclimate to somewhat of a schedule. But it was an incredible experience on so many levels.
So at a time that you're running more than one business and growing businesses, you spent 400 days on the road traveling the country with your family.
Yeah, and it was great. So like for the law firm, it's funny. So we came back to Orlando. I think I came back 5 times in that point. My wife came back 6. She had to come back one more time, or maybe it was 4 and 5. And it was funny because I was like, all right, I have my, 30 or 40 referral sources and people I haven't seen, and like I need to connect with them. And then realize like, every time I go to look at the last time I saw somebody, I'm like, I actually saw a lot of people more often in those timeframes because I knew like I had to see them those 5 or 6 times that we were back. Whereas like we have these friends that we genuinely care about that you realize like, oh, I haven't seen them in 2024 yet, and it's June. And then from the legalese standpoint, we had clients across the whole country. So like I met with a bunch of our clients in person. I went to a bunch of their offices. I met a bunch of other like lawyers that I had known online or seen at conferences in person. And so it was really cool because like I brought my son for a lot of them. He met a bunch of their kids. And it was just really funny for him to be like, oh, we're meeting a friend for barbecue. We're meeting a friend for, at the place in San Diego, not the theme park. Anyway, whatever. We just like hung out with a bunch of people across the country and got to do a lot of fun stuff.
It's funny, we're doing the same thing in Legoland. I happened to stumble upon somebody who I've only met online. It's Moshe Amsel from Profit with Law.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to him and he's like, oh yeah, you're going to be in my neck of the woods. So we're having dinner with his family tonight, right outside of Legoland. A guy like I met him on Clubhouse early in the pandemic. Remember when Clubhouse was a thing?
Oh, yeah.
And he actually just interviewed me for his podcast a couple days ago. So I'm like, hey, let's meet up. So it's funny how much more intentional, like you almost create scarcity of time in your life so that you're more intentional with how you spend that time, which I think is really cool. So I have one more follow-up question about that trip.
Sure.
And I want to talk about legalese a little bit too, because I think that there's some interesting things that went on there. So your plan was to travel the country in your Jeep then, right? Like that
Yes.
was the goal. Did you map the whole thing out, or how far in advance were you planned with what you were doing with that trip?
Me personally, or as a family?
Both.
As a family.
So I'll answer Ashley's question just because it's funnier. Me personally, not a clue, not more than a day. My wife is like my wife in another life was like the world's best travel agent when that was a thing. So for the most part, we would map out we would say like one trip back to Orlando ahead. So, okay, we've got a flight back in 2 months. We need to be here. Let's work backwards to figure out how many days we need to be. And I was like, I'll do almost all the driving because you're doing the planning. So like she would find a hotel room and do the planning, in between some of our drives. And that's how we kind of split up, me having some impact on being helpful towards the trip.
All right. So you weren't much of a planner on the trip. Are you a planner in your business?
It's a really good question. I force myself to, I'm a really good thinker. I force myself to plan. And then I do a really good job like following up with people in terms of KPIs and making tweaks from there. But like I do need to specifically put on my calendar, like it's time to do the next quarter planning for this. It's time to reevaluate the marketing plan, like the big stuff like that. I have to calendar. Otherwise, I will not naturally do it.
It's not something that comes naturally. Is it something that you're good at?
Planning?
Yeah.
Is it something I'm good at? That's a really good question. So like if you ever do the table group widget, I don't know if you're familiar.
I've heard of it, yeah, but
So
explain it.
yeah, so it talks about the standpoint like you have their widget, or it's an acronym, and so like it's wonder, identify, discern, galvanize, enable, and tenacity. And so it's like wondering about ideas, coming up with different ideas, discerning which ones make sense, galvanizing a team, enabling people to get it done, and having it finished. I'm like a discerner and a tenacity person. So like I need to bring in a lot of other ideas, and then I can say like, hey, I think this makes sense for us. And then I can push it onto the team and then come back at the end and make sure it's done. So like I'm not even like that 10-80-20 rule. I'm almost like I need the first 10% from somebody else. I'm like the second 10% and the last 10%. So from planning, like I basically just took traction. Like that is the planning that I think that makes sense. And then I apply my discernment to what we have going on. And then I think I do a really good job with my team, enabling them to get it done and having the tenacity to check in and make tweaks and review it.
So I think that's a really good example is of you found what works for you. And this is actually something that we talk about a lot on this show, like living by your own definition of success and living very intentionally with what you want to do. And the reason why I asked you if you're good at planning is because I think as entrepreneurs, we find ourselves, we can figure anything out, right? Like that's part of what made us successful as entrepreneurs. But the reality is we like any other human being, we have strengths and weaknesses. And I think some people want to focus on improving their weaknesses, but the really successful entrepreneurs focus on improving their strengths. Like take the things I'm already good at and do more of that rather than trying to improve something that I'm not so good at. So
1,000,000%.
that's really interesting. Okay, so I want to ask about, because you've mentioned this a couple times, but it didn't really come up in detail on the show. You've mentioned Legalese Marketing. So this is a business that you used to own.
Yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit about, first of all, what it did. So, because I know, but a lot of our listeners don't. So explain what the business was, why you started it, and why it's your former business now.
Yeah.
There.
So, I talked about my wife telling me that she was pregnant with our kid. So he was born on March 2nd of 2018. So January 1st, 2018, I cut our marketing budget, which was like $135,000 a year, down to zero. And I was like, hey, look, worst comes to worst, I'll have more time to raise my child. And then some point in there, I connected with Greg. We had I won UCF 30 under 30 one year. He won the next year because he's younger than me. My wife was in Tiger Bay. He was the executive director. Like we had so many things in common. And I just went to him and I was like, hey man, like, please help me understand, I have spent all this money and, my firm at the end of 2018 made $5,000 less gross revenue on $135,000 less in ad spend. And that's not to say the marketing was that bad, but that we organically grew. I was like, so this can't be a scam, right? Like it has to be me. What am I doing wrong? And, Greg was like, what clients do you actually want to have work with you? And my mind was just blown. Like I was running a $650,000 a year firm and had no concept of oh, these are the cases I actually enjoy. And so we worked together. Greg gave me a bunch of time for free on that. We started implementing that stuff for the firm. All of my close friends were like, hey, you've gone from complaining about your firm to bragging about it. What changed? And I was like, I understand marketing. This is amazing. It's the most basic 101 stuff, but it was so eye-opening. And so now Greg and I started working with them. We launched Legalese in January 1st of 2020 officially with half a dozen clients that we had done some stuff before just to make sure that there was proof of concept. And then, it became more and more Greg's baby. We grew into the thing that we did really well was building out Lawmatics or a sales process. So yeah, we're a marketing company, but the other issue I had is I had no consistent sales process. So if I wasn't busy, my marketing looked great because I called everybody back, and then I got busy and it was terrible. And so we built that stuff out. And then at some point it just became a lot more of Greg's baby with the team. He was a lot more involved in it than I was, and he made me an offer to buy me out. And I was like, sure, man, this is great. And so they did my personal website, they did my law firm website. We still have clients in common. It's been, at least on my end, a super smooth transition, but it is funny because it was, oh, what happened? He offered me an amount of money to have 100% control. And I said, yeah, sure. Great, man. So
I want to hear more about that transition because I actually knew you more as the guy from the marketing company who helped build out the sales systems and the CRMs. I knew you less as a lawyer. Did you have any identity issues or people getting confused about what you were doing, or what was that transition like? Or was it?
What do you mean?
Uneventful?
In terms of identity issue?
Yeah.
In-house, from what perspective?
Well, I don't know. Do most people view you as a lawyer? Do most people view you as the marketing guy? Do they view you as the coach? What?
Probably as a marketing guy, probably still the identity, but ultimately the thing that I tell people is the coaching that I'm doing now is absolutely the exact same thing that I was doing at Legalese, but for me then having a team that executed the specific stuff. Like everybody says they need more cases, which is really the dumbest thing to say because it's not specific enough. How many cases do you actually need? What kind of cases? What's profitable? And so like I'm working with my clients now to identify those things in more detail. And now they can go back to a marketing company and say, hey, look, this is what I need. And we can make sure they have a system in place. And then like I can work with them on what do you do with the money? How do you reinvest it in your firm, in yourself, in your life to actually have one? There's no reason to be a slave to your business forever. And so like my perspective hasn't changed on any of it. I'm just not managing the team that does the execution.
So you said something else in there that I thought would catch a lot of people, or they would miss it. You were talking about how you really started to like your business, and it's because you started to understand marketing and get the cases that you actually enjoy. And you said it's basic 101 stuff. But I don't think it is. I don't think in the heat of battle, you're thinking about, is this my A+ avatar client? I think for a lot of business owners, they're thinking, can this person pay me? Like, am I going to make money on this? And that's the only criteria that they use in deciding whether to take on a client or not. So can you elaborate on that a little bit more on like deciding the type of cases or customers or clients that you want? And what do you do when those other ones come to you who maybe it's slightly outside of your lane or not exactly on your menu of service, and how you approach those situations?
Sure. And to be clear, when I say 101, like literally this stuff is marketing 101. It's not business owner 101. So I totally agree with you
Yeah, that's
from
fair.
that perspective. To answer your question directly, I want to pull from Dan Sullivan, who says you should always be buying. Even if you are the one doing the consultation, you should be asking yourself, do I want to buy this person's problem? And by having that mindset, it's easier to say like, this isn't out of my lane, or this is too far in my lane, as opposed to, if you don't go in with that mindset, you're like, oh, I like this person, and sure, I can, massage my offering here and there. I will say, like, you don't want to go out of business. So there are situations and decisions that you have to make at the beginning that you hopefully don't regret, or hopefully learn from and grow from after that. So a lot of times, like, I'm pushing somebody to understand, like, I am making a mistake I am making, not a mistake, I am making the wrong decision for the right reasons at the right time. And I want to put myself in a position to never make this decision again.
So how does that work? If you like, when I first started my firm and I took everything that came in the door, my criteria was, it's not even can they pay the bill? Is there a reasonable likelihood that they could pay the bill? Right.
Right.
So there were a lot of things that I did that I would have to figure out that weren't like, I did not have a menu of services. I did not have a very niche practice. I mean, we're talking almost 15 years ago now. But how does that work if you've got a team where, like, let's use your law firm as an example, right? Who are the perfect clients for your law firm? What are the types of cases that you're looking for?
So car accident or slip and fall that has happened to a blue collar professional, somebody who is most concerned about how they're going to be able to maintain the helpfulness that they have to their family or community, and are less concerned about getting a giant check and saying whatever is needed to get that giant check. And I've got demographics and psychographics more than that, but that's basically what it is.
So what would you do if, cash flow is getting a little bit tight, or your projections are struggling, or maybe you want to hire and you need to bring in some additional revenue to do that, and that dog bite case walks in your door, right? It's not a slip and fall, it's not a car accident, but it is still, and I dog bite, like, take your pick of other potential torts. Ooh, lawyer word. It's been a while since
Yeah,
I've
the
used one of them.
courts.
Like, how do you approach that with your business and with your team of, hey, I think we need to take this thing that isn't, directly up our alley necessarily.
So I suggest look at it like a dartboard. Like what I told you, that is my yellow gold bullseye in the center. So dog bite. I've had a bunch of clients that bit stuff at Disney, like into food or Universal or whatever, and had, injuries, broken teeth, whatever. So like that would be our next out. So that's sure, we'll take it. I'm not marketing to those cases, but those are in our wheelhouse. Then like the next circle after that is medical malpractice, products liability. We are never taking those cases, but we get a ton of them. So we have really good partnerships with other firms. And then anything out of that's off the board. Like there's no conversation about that circle. So I would say like you really focus on that bullseye. And when I'm not good enough at darts to not focus on the bullseye when I throw, but I'm okay going one rung out, and sometimes I'm okay going two rungs out.
And I think what's favorable for a business like that is you can refer out those medical malpractice cases and get referral fees. Often those firms are willing to pay them. But what about, somebody comes to you with they're accused of a crime and it's a criminal defense matter, not something that your firm handles. Is that something that you refer out, or are you looking for referral fees, or how do you, or one of your prior clients who you helped, maybe that was in a car accident that now has a divorce issue or something like that come up? What's your approach to that?
So in that specific instance, I want to get them to somebody who's going to do such an amazingly, incredibly great job that that person comes back to me for referrals, and send them to somebody who might send me back personal injury stuff. Like that's the ideal goal. But in the order of like, if somebody asks you, if somebody came to me and said, hey, I have this legal issue, I want to get them to the exact right best person to help them so that they keep coming back to me with future questions. Second to that is sending them to somebody who would send me back the cases I do want.
Yeah, so it's as long as you put the client's interest first. Of if this person, if they do a great job for this person, you're kind of doing it on karma, right? It's not necessarily referral fees, not necessarily a guarantee of referrals coming back to you, but I just know that if this person is well taken care of, that's going to work out for me in the long term.
I mean, it's like I go back to, and I wish I could credit the person who said this. The 1,000 raving fans. If you have 1,000 raving fans, you can do basically whatever you want. Like
Yeah.
we need to keep that mindset. So a client who comes back to me and says, "Hey, I need a new accountant. Hey, I need a new business lawyer. Hey, I need somebody to clean my house while I'm injured." Like having the right person to send them to keeps that person coming back to me for future problems, which allows me to send out more referrals, which allows me to make sure they find the right people, which allows me to build that, you want to call it karma, with more people who then potentially send us back business or come to us for future questions, or, are truly pulling for us in whatever situation arises.
Okay, so let's change gears a little bit here.
Sure.
Maverick Mindset Radio Show, Mav Daddies. We talked a lot about business. Let's talk about how you. I don't like the phrase work-life balance, but how do you structure your life in a way that you've got business and employees and spouse and child and yourself? Like, what is your approach to making all of that stuff work together?
You actually structure your life, and you do that with a calendar. Like that is the strongest thing that I can tell you. I mean, my calendar is up there, it's on the phone, it's everywhere else. And you build it in a way where you always look busy enough to say no to something. Like I don't understand people that don't put things on their calendar until it's a week or two out, because they get an opportunity in 6 weeks and their calendar is completely blank. So the things that I get to do every week, it could be a massage, it could be working out, it could be a meeting with a client, it could be whatever. Those are recurring on my calendar forever. So if somebody comes to me with a speaking opportunity, I can look in 14 months and tell you, that week's not great for me. How about is the next week better? Because right now there's fewer things on my calendar 14 months out, 6 months out, tomorrow. Like the more you have those things structured, the better. And then like I try to live off my calendar. So not only do I have the stuff, not only do I have workout on my calendar, I have a link to the workout that I'm doing. Not only do I have, going to lunch on the calendar, I have another time that tells me driving time. So now, I know to get where I need to be. I have pickup time for my kid. I have, whatever else I have time to think. I have time to meet with my employees. I have, employee evals. Like you have those things on your calendar as far out as possible. If you move them, you move them. But now I can say no to something that's so far in advance by showing the person my calendar. Hey, that's not a good day for me already.
But it's also far enough out that you can shuffle things if you need to. If that great opportunity comes up for something 6 months from now.
Sure. If Gary Vee called and wanted me on a show, I would kindly ask my coaching client to take a different hour slot. Yeah, absolutely.
So where do you, I find that what happens though is as you grow a business, as you become more successful, and as more people learn of that success, the demands on your time become much greater than you can fulfill, right? So I get more Facebook messages from people that just want a quick chat to learn about how I did it, right? As if that's a short conversation. So how do you prioritize saying, like, how are you deciding what you're saying yes to versus what you're saying no to?
So in that specific situation, it's going to be very case by case specific on what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something for everybody. So it might be I have recorded a 1 hour like me saying it, or I record the conversation with the first person who asked and I send that to the next people. It just depends upon who asks and what they put into. So, I actually have a meeting. Is it today? It's not today, it's tomorrow. Somebody who reached out and said, hey, I went to the same law school as you a couple of years after you. I asked around. I'm thinking about opening up my own firm. Like everybody said, I need to talk to you. So can I buy an hour of your time? Do you have some time for me? And I was like, absolutely, no problem. I'll do it for you for free. Like, I appreciate that you put in the effort, as opposed to like, hey, I'm looking to connect with people in the area. Like, tell me more about what you do. Abso-freaking-lutely not. Like, you put in zero effort for this. I'm not going to do it. And so like,
It's the people who copy and paste your title on LinkedIn. Like, I see that you're the founder of Rust Belt Business Law. Are you looking for an automated system to bring you an extra 10 to 20 motor vehicle cases per month? And it's like, no, because we don't do motor vehicle cases, but thank you for not reading any further in my bio.
dude, I get life insurance because my thing says I'm helping lawyers live a better life. They're like, oh, we want to send you life insurance leads. I'm like, okay, got it. You didn't even put the word insurance in the automated search. But anyway, so like you decide what you do in those moments. And so like I am big about how can you recreate that information or expand that to more people. So you might record the conversation and now it becomes a piece of content and now you can send it to future people. I might say, hey, I'm not going to go grab lunch with you, but I'm playing Topgolf and there's going to be 4 or 5 of us. Why don't you come join us, meet more people in the area, and now like we can have that group conversation. Okay, hey, this is great. I just did a webinar on this. Like, check out the webinar and then let me know what questions you have and I'll answer those, but I'm not going to start from day one. And so like we live in the greatest time to repurpose anything that you do and multi-impact things. So like multitasking is bogus. Do not do it. It is terrible for everybody, but come up with multi-impacts. So like if somebody really wants to pick my brain, they can show up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go for a ruck with me. Or we can hike through the woods. Like Adam, I know you had those videos for a while. Like we can knock these things out in the same time frame where it's not going to be an issue. If you want to meet on, Zoom for coffee because you sent out 10,000 emails, like I'm not wasting time with that.
I think, I think that's really good. I call them stackables, things I do once that I never have to do ever again. And I find the more of those I build, the easier my life gets. And admittedly, it's part of the reason we do a weekly 1 hour radio show, which becomes a podcast, which goes on YouTube, which we can split up into smaller pieces of content. Like, this is an hour a week where I'm getting 10 hours a week of impact. So I think that's a really great example. I'm going to steal your idea of when somebody asks me out to lunch. Like, I don't do lunch. I don't leave my office for lunch. That it sucks up a lot of time. Now, with the way a lot of the service industry has gone, these lunches are an hour and a half because it's so slow. Plus, I got the travel time. Like, I'm not taking 2 hours out of my day. But if I did it with a group of people, like, yeah, I am doing you can have lunch with Adam with 4 other people next Thursday. Or if we have Top Golf, I'll go to 5-iron golf. Shout out to Drew Whiting, 5-iron golf.
Exactly. And that's exactly my point. So, and find clients that own restaurants and say, hey, I want to bring, 10 friends to your restaurant. I want to support you. Can we film it? Can we record it? Can we give you a shout out? What can we do for you to support this? Or, hey, I'll give you 3 spots. Do you have 3 people that matter in your life that you want to come hear me talk about having a life while running a business, or whatever the initial topic of conversation is, and just make it a value add to as many people as possible in a way that minimizes your involvement with everybody forever.
That's really good advice.
Thanks, man.
I think I don't know. So anybody who listens to this show knows that we're big proponents of coaching. We've received a lot of coaching. We provide a lot of coaching. So when did you decide that was a business that you were going to get into?
So the discussion that I had with Greg at Legalese, I was like, hey, look, man, we should just go fractional CMO. Like we should become marketing coaches. There's a million great companies that do the execution. We can do the strategy. We can meet with these people overall and consistently, because like that's the problem. You have firms that have no vendors. You have firms that have 17 vendors and nobody connects them. Like that's the gap in the market that I see. And so Greg's thing was like he worked in marketing agencies and wanted to have an agency. So like the buyout was for me to be able to go do the strategy coaching stuff without having a conflict of interest to send them back to my company. I don't know if that answered your question.
I love that you say there's a million great vendors out there, service providers out there. There's also 12 million horrible ones. So that's another
Sure.
reason that you need
But
somebody
here's
in
the
that
thing.
role.
Nobody wakes up and says like, I'm going to run a terrible business. I don't think, nobody wakes up and says like, I'm a bad person. Everybody has their rationalizations. And so like, I think the question you asked before about like taking the stuff that's out of your wheelhouse, I think that's the problem with so many of these. Like, hey, and that's why like I'm going to give a shout out to Jan Ruse. I love the fact like they do webinars for estate planning firms. Like that's our thing. Like we have figured out how to do the niche that makes sense for the strategy we provide. Whereas there's these other agencies that are like, hey, we're great with Google ads. Fantastic. But are they actually going to sit there and tell a consultation, we don't think Google ads are right for you because your clients are not going to search for this on the internet because your price point's not going to support this strategy? Like, are they really going to have that conversation? So in that situation, I don't think the vendor is the problem, but the vendor's not necessarily a bad vendor. There's a strategy component that's missing.
It's, nobody intentionally sets out to own a bad business, but it happens all the time. Like there is definitely a lack of knowledge. There's a lack of experience. I think where I get frustrated with this stuff is when those vendors act like they know it all and aren't willing to learn anything new. And I've had vendors fire themselves from working with me when I call and say, call them out and say, what are the results?
Right.
You tell me where it is. And it's a shame because a lot of them just shut down, not literally shut their doors, but physically and emotionally shut down and don't want to respond to that. So I'm the world's biggest proponent of small business, and I try and help those people in those instances. And it's a shame when they don't want to get that feedback from us. That's really,
and look,
really
I think more small businesses should be doing bartering. Like you're a business lawyer, barter your services to a cleaning company. They can come in and clean and you can do their documents. You're a food service place and somebody who does, graphic design or video editing, great. Barter food for them to make some videos for you. Like let's be there for each other and more of these things that make sense on these overlaps, because everybody's going to be able to do it for cheaper than they'll sell it for, but get a benefit from you in the same profit margin or similar.
All right, so we have a couple minutes left. Is there anything that you want to make sure in the next 2 minutes we get out to the audience? Like what are you preaching that we didn't give you the pulpit long enough to explain?
1 minute. Jules saying
1 minute.
1 minute.
Sure. Look, don't wait. Like you can sit here. Every memoir I've ever read has that moment in the back where the person's like, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I was there for my kid. Phil Knight had a kid who died in a scuba diving accident, and that's how he ends Shoe Dog, talking about that. So this concept of like, hey, I'm not going to see my family for the next 5 years, or I'm not going to be happy until this happens, is bogus. And you need to get over that as soon as possible, because making senior partner is not going to make you happy. It's going to be something else that changes that you can control that will make you happy.
And I think that's going to be our action item for the day is don't wait, right? I mean, that's if you have to step away from the business, if you can do it for a month, great. If you can do it for a week, great. If you can only do it for a half an hour or for an afternoon, get out there, spend that time with your family,
Make
call
the
your
change,
father.
the tweak to be able to do that.
Exactly. You'll learn a lot by stepping away. So great show today. Mav Daddies, Jordan, so glad we could have you here. We'll get this episode out on Spotify. Appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. Our first remote show. We'll see you next week. I believe in you.
Can we talk? No. No.
It was the best show yet.
Special. It was good. Like, can we talk?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I've got a 10 o'clock.
That's fine. We'll let you go.
Hey,
Thank you,
we're
Jordan.
off. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks.
Jordan.
Happy Father's Day. No, that was good. That was a good Zoom show. That was a good show. There was a lot of good lessons. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
the audio worked for all of it.
Okay.
But the Facebook did not. Facebook missed about 10 minutes all told.
but
Until I figured
we'll have the
out.
recording. Yeah, we'll get it
Yes.
all up on Spotify, and we have the video of the Zoom that we can chop up and reuse. So
Yeah, I like, damn it, like I hit the button and it says you're not allowed to stream. I'm like,
So
I
what
checked.
happens with our swearing? Do we get in trouble?
Did you swear?
I didn't, but Joel did. Or Jordan did.
Yeah. Well, it'll be okay. I've had worse, I'm sure. Yeah. I didn't hear it.
Maybe it'll be
it
missed.
was all right. I sent him a message early on, like we're on FM radio. Okay.
Thank you
All right,
guys for
cool.
your patience, man. I mean,
No, that was good. I think we're definitely going to end up doing more remote, and we'll have guests come in remote. So I think this was good practice.
I will get with my video people to see if there's a way that I can take direct out of the Mac. I'm sure there is, into my switcher and make the Mac a video source. You know what I'm saying?
So check out StreamYard. I think it's
Oh, yeah.
StreamYard FM instead of Zoom. It might be even easier to
Oh, that's what BuddyCast uses. So
Yeah.
that might be an answer.
All right, I'm gonna go. I'm going to
All right.
Lego.
Have
Watch show.
fun.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Ashley. See ya.
See you, Joel.